Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! And they are back on terms!
Hello everybody again and welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast and we have one of our favourite types of episodes today when we talk to a former Rotherham player and a Rotherham player who spent a long time with the Millers. We have Neil Richardson joining us today. Thank you for joining us, Neil.
No problem, Matt. It's an absolute pleasure, mate.
Brilliant. We have Mick today. Probably no rants from Mick today, hopefully. That'll be good.
I doubt it very much, mate. I doubt it very much.
Yeah. And Danny is joining as well. Thank you for joining us, Danny. No ranting from you, will there?
No, not from me. I do have my flag ready, Mick, just in case, though.
It's always good to be prepared, mate.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. What we always like to do with these things, Neil, is basically where is life, where is football taking you nowadays? What are you still involved in football?
Yeah, at the moment I'm working with Forest, not Forest. I'm scouting for them at the moment. So from last night, I'm in quite a good mood, so I'm okay at the moment. Just a bit, the boys done really, really well over the two legs. Made it a bit nerve-wracking last night.
Yeah.
After a very, very good first performance in the first leg. But I think overall he just about deserved it, and it's going to take a good side to beat them, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing Forest back in Premier League, to be honest with you. They're a huge club, aren't they? Such a huge club.
Well, the history is massive, to be fair, and it is an important part of a club's repertoire, really, to be fair. And it is a long time since Forest have been back in the Premier League. So everybody, obviously, who supports them wants them to be there, and I don't think they'd be out of sorts if they did join in with them.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. So let's go back to when you first joined the Millers. The information, the problem with playing in the 90s, Neil, is the information on the internet is useless. It doesn't really tell me much information. So for
send a pigeon.
So for a lot of fans,
it was actually the 80s, wasn't it? It was the
89, wasn't it?
89 when I first went there. I mean, I was playing at Brandon United, which is a team in the northeast, in the Northern League, and we were on a bit of a good cup run. We got to the first round of the cup, so obviously a few of the lads got a little bit of notice, and I was invited down to Rotherham to train, which I thought, yeah, I've got to do it if I want to get back into it, like type thing. You know what I mean? So I did it, and I actually played on a Saturday for Brandon, but I was training during the weekends, and what I thought was a very, very good coach in Billy Mckeown.
Yeah.
Billy was fantastic. He was so organised, and everything about him was so good. And he had good players, but he made good players better.
That's the key thing for a manager, though, isn't it? To make the players you've got better, or to make them as a unit better. And those are the people that win leagues, win cups, and things like that.
Absolutely. He didn't really have any superstars as such, although Sean Goodwin was coming through type thing, and Sean was always going to be a really, really good player and probably someone who should have gone higher. Clive did, to be fair to Clive did go higher and proved how good Clive was. But the actual pros that were there were fantastic, like Tony Grealish, Billy Russell, John Buckley, Des Hazel, Bobby Williamson, you know what I mean, Kellen O'Hanlon, fantastic pros, and it was really, really good for me to learn from them. You know what I mean? People like Nigel Johnson as well. You know what I mean? Really, really good to learn from.
Nick, for a lot of us that don't know, tell people how good these players are. Neil's reeling off. They were last team to win the league for Rotherham.
Well, exactly. You're reeling all these names off, and I mean, people listening to this podcast will be familiar with my ability to remember anything. That's why I have my name written on the screen, because I struggle to remember it at times. But then you start talking about these players, and it starts to bring back memories of just it was a great time, and it sort of. We'd gone through that cycle of the 80-81 team, and then it kind of dropped off a little bit, and then it came back again at the back end of the 80s, early 90s, and it was in my memory what I try to do, what seems to happen. I don't try and do it. Just I compare that 80-81 side and the individual players within it to the players within that you played with and you yourself. So you kind of, in my head, and I know this is not true, you kind of followed on from the Paul Stancliffes in your position. You know what I mean?
To be fair, to be mentioned within the same breath as someone like Stan is quite humbling. To be fair, because Stan was a good player.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Breck used to always remind us about the likes of Tiger and Rodney Fern and all that. And you can, from the 81 side, and you only see little bits of footage of them, but they were a great side as well. But obviously before my time. But it's the lads from 88, 89, for me, were fantastic. Were really, really good. But they were a close-knit group. The manager had done that, to be fair to the manager. He got them that close. But he also coached them. I mean, the coaching was it was intense, but it was actually spot on to what was required.
Yeah,
the organization was unbelievable.
And I mean, talking about going full circles, we've gone exactly down that exact same route again now, haven't we? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the current group have done absolutely fantastic, and it obviously starts at the top. So Warney's got to take a hell of a lot of credit of that. What Warney's done, I mean, and also the chairman's got to take a lot of credit because they've gone up and down, and Warney stayed no matter what. And the chairman stuck with him, and fair play to him. I think this year they seem to have a different side where you look at it this year and you think, you know what, they could do okay in the championship.
The thing is, Neil, as well, and it's like, as I've just said there, what you tend to do when you're in a successful period, or what I tend to do, I don't know whether other people do, but you tend to compare it to the successful periods previously. So you compare, you know, sort of Chio to Tiger or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the period that you played in was one of those sort of peaks, if you like, that that team and certainly some of the players within it get compared to the successful periods previously and subsequent.
I think the big difference, Mick, is the formations. To be fair, because when I first started, you were either 4-4-2 or you were 3-5-2. There was nothing else. There wasn't a lot else. Nowadays, it's you see some teams and you think, what the hell are they playing? What system are they playing? You know what I mean? And to be fair to Warney, it's his system is quite unusual, but he's got the best in what he's got. He's got the best out of him.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is the shape and the systems of the two teams, really. And the two
I think the other thing is what you alluded to just a little bit ago, Neil, and that's how close knit the squad is, and how they're willing to play for each other. And you know, it's not just a football team. You know, there's all the cliches about being like a family and all sorts of that sort of stuff. Yeah. But you know, you get into that environment where you 100% trust everybody around you without exception. It can only ever lead to success.
Yeah, I think if you listen to Warney and you listen to his after-match talk, because after every game now the manager's got to speak, which it can be quite hard on the manager, especially if they've had a defeat or something like that. And it could be quite hard. But if you speak to Warney, he's very, very articulate, and he will always back his players. He will always back, and it's a case of it's. I found as a player, if a manager's prepared, whatever he says in the dressing room stays in there. And then he can go out and tell the press. He can tell them something different because he is protecting his players. Yeah, and I think Warney does it absolutely fantastic. And you hear a lot of other people talk about how well he speaks and what he says, and he's quite well thought of in the circles. To be fair, he does really, really well. And I really like listening to him. To be fair, I do. I think he's great to listen to.
I could listen to him all day, mate. Just give him a subject and set him off. You know,
absolutely.
Because it's considered and thought through, but also from the heart as well. Whatever he says.
Yeah, and I think that relays back to his players, and I can imagine his coaching being exactly the same. I can imagine his team talks actually in the dressing room being the same, and the players are probably looking at him every time he speaks and going, "Do you know what? I want to play for you. I want to run through brick walls for you." And Well, I mean, I've been lucky enough to see 3 or 4 games at New York this year, and judging by what you see from the stands, it looks as if they are absolutely all together.
Yeah,
it looks great.
And is that what you sort of experienced under Billy McKeown?
Yeah, Billy was fantastic. Billy's slightly different. He's a bit more intense than what Warney was. He's like 100% organisation. He wanted his team shape to be absolutely spot on. He got the right personnel to do it.
Yeah,
but he had to get his shape right, spot on. And to be fair, he was never far away every week. I mean,
yeah,
I can't remember offhand, but I don't think they lost many games that year, did they?
You've got me now, Neil. I don't know. I have no idea, mate.
I think you're talking single figures, which for I think it was a 46 game season is pretty good going.
It's immense, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. That is for his stats. And then, so when you've obviously came almost to trial for Rotherham for that season, nowadays it's easy. If you're going to say, if I'm interested about X club, I'll just go on YouTube. I'll go on Twitter. I'll look up. Is that obviously in '89? There wasn't as much information available, or was there? But you had to sort of go through certain channels to get it. Could you get that information if you needed it?
No, it was really barren. There was absolutely nothing there. There really wasn't. You couldn't. I mean, unless if, say for example, if you were watching games and you had to watch another team, something like that, you had to go physically to watch the team to find things out about the team. You know what I mean? You couldn't rely on much on the television either. You know what I mean? You might see the odd goal on television, but that's probably the biggest difference between then and now. The media side of it has changed massively. I mean, there was no such things as podcasts or anything like that, was there?
No.
You'd done the radio afterwards if you were nominated, but that was about it.
Yeah. And then there was a season on 89-90 where it seemed to had a good season in Division 3, a 9th place finish in Division 3. Was that your first proper season?
Yeah, that was my first season, to be fair. And I remember I thought there were some good teams in that league, the likes of Stokes and the Birminghams. And I remember going to Stoke at Christmas, and Stoke were top, and I think we were second at the same. And I remember I didn't actually play the game, but I was part of the squad. And I'm watching the game. I'm thinking this is a fantastic game for what was Division 3 at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Two really good teams having a right go at it, but two teams playing it right, two teams playing it properly. And at the time we were second, but as you say, we finished 9th. We slid down slightly, but to come up from the Division 4 at the time, that's not a bad achievement, to be fair.
No, not at all. The following season ended in relegation, so that was what we were on 1991, and according to again Soccer Base, there was a change in manager. So Billy Quinn left in 91. Phil Henson came in, ended in relegation. Yeah. How was that season? Like I said, it was only your second full season in professional football, and it's a drop from, like you say, you were second at Christmas season before, and then the following season you finished in 23rd, and it must be such a blow to just drop, I suppose.
Yeah, we didn't start. If I remember rightly, we didn't start the season very well, and it's always hard to pick up once you get a bad start to a season. Again, there was some good. I mean, I think if I remember rightly, Cambridge won it with the likes of Dion Dublin and teams like that. And I remember Cambridge came to us last game of the season. They were already champions, and we were relegated. And I'll never forget it because I was still quite a young pro, and at the old dressing rooms at Millmore, you used to get the tunnel beside the home dressing room, didn't you? And about 5 minutes to go before kickoff, all you could hear was people singing it. I thought, there's a decent crowd. Then you hear people banging on the windows of our dressing room. I'm thinking, what the hell is happening here? And then you walk out the tunnel, you walk out the dressing rooms, and you see Dion Dublin doing like a war dance with all these players lined up in the tunnel. And I'm thinking, what the bloody hell's happening here? Type thing, you know what I mean? And it was John Beck intimidation style, wasn't it? And they were a big physical side. But they were also a good side as well, you know what I mean? And I think if I remember rightly, they got to a FA Cup quarter final the same year.
I think they got to 2. I think they got 2.
They were horrible to play against. I'll be honest. They weren't great to play against, but they were so effective in what they did. they were all big physical boys. I mean, there was Dion Dublin, there was the Phil Pott. They had some good players who went on to play higher. But if I remember rightly, they won the league and they won it. They were good sides then, to be fair.
I imagine Dion Dublin were a bit of a handful to play against.
Oh mate, he was all arms and all legs. He was bloody horrible. It was like you go up for a header, and it's one of them. You go for a header. You know you're going to be involved in a physical battle, so you've got to be physical. Try and be physical yourself. But you'd always come away thinking, "Oh, he's got me again." Like, you know what I mean? he had a little bit of cuteness as well, mate. You know what I mean? Which took him the next levels up.
Yeah,
it's all right being physical, but you've got to have a bit of physicality plus a bit of cuteness as well. You know what I mean? And he had it. He had it. He was a very, very good player.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at him, you see the personality of on TV. He doesn't strike you as being that kind of personality. I mean, I obviously don't know. We don't know him personally, just from what we see on TV when he's in industry and stuff like that.
Well, when he's going in someone's house, I can imagine him being very, very nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't like that on the pitch at all, mate. He was a nasty sod. But he wasn't the only one. I mean, we played against the likes of Birmingham, the likes of John Gale as well. I mean, John Gale was a man mountain. He was huge. But Birmingham seemed to produce them from nowhere. They had John Gale and they had Kevin Francis, and they seemed to produce them from everywhere. It's like, what do you feed them down there, type thing? You know what I mean? They were always huge. You think you just know what to expect.
Yeah,
and you've got to deal with it.
Yeah. As I said, as mentioned, it's a relegation season. Did that relegation feel like it was coming? You know, you see some teams, championship teams, right now a season are relegated with a whimper. Was that one of those seasons where it just all went wrong and it dropped, or was it a proper battle in that season?
I think we had a go. But things weren't going for us. I mean, Billy left and Phil took over. And to be fair to Phil, one of the first things he said was, I mean, Phil, I think Billy left after the Swansea game, didn't he? Did we get? I'm sure that was the season we played Swansea in the cup. We played them on the New Year's Day. Then we had to go back down again in the cup on the Saturday.
Right.
I mean, I think we got digged 5-0 at Swansea on the New Year's Day, and we had to go back down. So no one's looking forward to going back down to Swansea, which wasn't the best place at the time. You know what I mean? We managed to get a draw, and I played in the second game. I played as a sweeper because Phil changed the system. He went back to a 3-5-2, and he said, like, when he got the job, he says, "Look, I want you to play in the middle of the three alongside Big Knives and I'm not sure if it was Nicky Law at the time or Andy Barnsley. I can't remember, but for me, I just wanted to play simple as that. So I'd play anywhere. I'd play anywhere. So it was, but it was. I remember going back to Swansea on that Saturday, thinking, and Swansea's never sunny. It's always the rain comes in horizontal. It's like it was a hard get. You're just getting digged 5-0 on the week, less than 4 or 5 days before. So and we got a 0-0 draw, which we're chuffed about. You know what I mean? So we got. I think we beat them in the replay 3 or 4-0, didn't we, in the third round of the cup? And so it proved fruitful, to be fair. But to be fair to Phil, he took over at quite a hard time. But he when he took the job, he always said to me, "Look, whenever I'm here, you'll always have a place in this club," which for a player is fantastic. Yeah. That's what you want the manager to hear. That's what you want the manager to tell you. And Phil was just as good for me as Billy was, to be fair. Not as technically like in depth in terms of shape and things like that. He was a little bit freer, but for an individual, he was great for me.
He never came across as an authoritarian type manager, Phil. I don't know whether he could be, but he didn't come across that way.
No, I think it's you're either born that way or you're not.
Yeah.
And Phil was never born that way. And I think if he tried to come across that way after being the way he was as Billy's understudy, it wouldn't have been right. He just tried to be himself. Yeah. He just tried to be himself. And I mean, we got promoted the following. I'm sure we got promoted again the following year, didn't we?
Yeah.
So it worked in that respect. But the problem we were having was we were either top of what was like Division 4 or near the bottom of Division 3, and that had to change.
Yeah,
That had to change somewhere. And
rings a bell, that.
most of the time, it's down to investment, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, up to a point.
It is. Most of the time, it is.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the current sort of trend of investment, shall we say, in inverted commas.
Smart investment.
I'm reaching for the flag, Matt.
To be fair, you've still got to be organised and know what you're doing and get the right players. Because, as you say, you're dead right. Because nowadays you can get good players on frees.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players available, and if you've got the right recruitment staff and the right people to do it, there's no reason why you can't get people in on frees. What wages you pay them on top of that and things like that, and that's different. But non-fee, you can get good players in for nothing.
We're obviously talking in end of the normal season. So I mean, what question I want to ask, I'm interested in, is footballers' contracts. How complicated or simple are they? Because things always seem to take so long to get over the line nowadays, and it just. We obviously were complete outsiders to this. So when you sign a new contract, is it right? Here's X amount per week. Here's your bonus. Off you go for 3 years, or is there so much detail to when you played anyway?
Well, I'll tell you a story about Billy Mckeown. When the second season, when I was a pro, Billy Mckeown offered me a new deal, which I was absolutely chuffed to bits with. But what I tried to do, I was just a footballer. I tried to get more money out of him. And I'm not talking about hundreds. I was asking for an extra $5. That's the difference between them days and nowadays. I was asking for an extra $5, and I can't remember his exact words were, but he went, "If you want to play for this football club, you'll just sign the contract." And he put the phone down.
Oh wow!
It's basically take it or leave it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking, I'm going to have to take this. I've got no choice. Yeah. I didn't have an agent, because not many people had agents in them days either. Really, to be fair, I didn't have an agent, so I didn't have someone working for me who could like test the water elsewhere. But he said, "I've offered you an extra $5. Take it or leave it." I'm like, okay. So I think I went in the morning and signed it, like, you know what I mean? And it was literally as simple as that. There was no complications. There was nothing to it, really. Nothing to it.
He'll have Boothie in his ear, won't he?
Oh,
he's having another $5.
Yeah. It's every $5 was special, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Every $5 in them days was special. But
absolutely.
I think I might be doing some of the players nowadays a little bit of an injustice, but it was more of a case of, do you want to play for this football club? It's not about how much money you get. It's do you want to play for this football club? And I think that's what Billy wanted to get into people, and that's the type of player he wanted, to be fair. You know what I mean? And it was literally only a $5. I remember him slamming the phone down and thinking, what do I do now? I had to take it. I mean, I have to find somewhere else to go, but I took it, like, you know what I mean? And I'm pleased I did, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it was in the days where you could get a bus from Sheffield to Rotherham for 5p. So $5 was quite a lot, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were the days. It's £3 now.
It just shows you. Plus, to be fair to him, I mean, he spoke to me a couple of days after, because I was in digs as well. He says, "I'm also paying you digs as well." Like something. No, thank God for that. I don't have to pay the 40 or 50 quid digs that I was getting as well. Like, the club had paid it, so he made it feel as if I had to be grateful for it. And to be fair, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
That following season, as we mentioned, it was a promotion-winning season, and there's nothing more special. We go through them every couple of years, obviously, at Rotherham United at the minute. But how special is it to be part of that team? How close was that? 91, 92, am I right?
Yeah,
91, 92, yeah, finished second.
Season, yeah.
How special is that to be part of?
It was good, because there was a few other new lads come, people like Billy Mercer had come from Liverpool and people like that. And I mean, I remember I started the season and I got injured against Hereford. I broke a bone in my foot. And Phil brought people like Mark Todd in and people like that, because I was actually playing in midfield at that stage. I was the midfield box to box player. No, I was the midfield holding midfield. Raggy,
Yeah.
I just said to Raggy, "Go on, son, you just go. I'll just sit behind you," type thing, because it would be stupid of me to try and do that. But yeah, he brought Toddy in, and Toddy did ever so well. I think I played about the first 12, 15 games before I got injured, and I must have played the last 12 games or something like that. But there was a few games at the end of the season there, which were really, really big games. I remember playing Blackpool, and Blackpool were up there. They were decent. Mansfield were up there. They were decent. Burnley obviously won it. Burnley were good. We played Burnley first game of the season, didn't we? That year, we were 1-0 down at half time, and we won the game 2-1. And we seemed to play Burnley loads in the cups and things like that.
Yeah.
It was quite a bit. Oh, we got Burnley again, have we? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They won the league. So, but again, some good sides, some really, really good sides. You know what I mean? And I remember some of the games at the end of the season. I remember playing Blackpool and the Millmoor was packed. We beat them 2-0. It was a massive game because Blackpool, to be fair to them, they always brought a decent following. And it was always nice. It was always good when an away following was big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was nice, like, you know what I mean. So I remember playing them, and we beat them. I remember playing at Mansfield and we got beat 1-0, but I thought we played ever so well. We played really well. Stanley scored a header. I remember Stanley scored, and Stanley was one of them. He's a great lad, but he used to talk to you all the time through the game. I'm thinking, Stanley, for Christ's sake, shut up! I'm trying to concentrate on the game. You know, it's honestly all the time. You said, "Richard, I'm going to score. I'm going to score." I said, "Stanley, you're not going to score." Type, and sure enough, he scored. I tell you what, he didn't have to let us know about it. But he's a great lad, and we got promoted the last game of the season with Chesterfield by drawing with Chesterfield. Mansfield also got promoted the last game of the season as well, and we actually went on holiday with Mansfield. We all went to the same spot. No, we didn't actually go together, but we actually went to the same spot, like. And we got to know their players really. And I was talking to Stanley, and the last game of the season, Blackpool were favourites to go up, but they got beat at Lincoln. They got beat 2-0 at Lincoln, so Mansfield went up anyway. And so Stanley being Stanley, that he loves to take the piss like type thing. He got a postcard and sent it to Blackpool. Wish you were here. Signed Stanley. You know what I mean? I think he said there's one particular player. I can't remember who. But like we were all laughing and joking down the pool together as two teams who'd slugged it out in a long season, but got promoted. And the players were great. Some good players again in that side. You know what I mean? Coming through, great. And again, a well organised side. You had to be well organised to get promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes you think. Did we do that in Vegas with Wigan this year? They went to Vegas, didn't they?
I'll tell you what. I wouldn't be surprised if someone got a postcard saying "Wish you were here."
Yeah.
You guys will probably know who wrote it better than I will, but you can
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Somebody at MK Dons is picking up. Could be Pete. Someone to Dara. I hope Dara got one.
Well, sometimes things happen in the season which you don't forget, and from what I can gather, I think Blackpool give Mansfield a bit of stick during the season, and Stanley especially. So Stanley didn't forget it. You know what I mean? He just sent a postcard saying "Wish you were here," and he's writing it out alongside the pool in like 30-degree heat. And he's writing a postcard out to Blackpool, "Wish you were here." I'm like, what's he doing?
Brilliant.
Obviously now, I mean, Rotherham's in the position now where they can watch the playoff final on Saturday, knowing they're already up. Knowing they might want one team to win, or they might want the other team to win. I don't know, but they know that they're up there now, and they can just relax. Yeah. You know what I mean, they can relax and watch it, and it's a great. It's an absolutely fantastic position to be in.
Oh, you are not
now. Oh, so I just as soon the day after it was a couple of days after the Gillingham game, we obviously crazy celebrating, and then a couple of days after, you're just feeling relaxed, and then you know the other way Wednesday Sunderland's coming up and McDonald's against thing, and you're thinking, I'm going to worry about this. I can just watch it, relax.
Absolutely.
It were amazing.
Well, relaxed and slightly sunburned, Matt.
I was quite sunburned from Gillingham.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still on edge now because I'm a Sunderland lad.
Yeah.
I'm going Saturday. I'm just getting my ticket. I'm just getting my ticket through today, and I was and ahhing whether to go or not, because I've been 5 times to Wembley to watch Sunderland and they've lost every bleeding time. So I'm thinking it's got to change at some stage.
Well, you won last year in lockdown, didn't they? With no fans, they won, didn't
there was no fans there. I'm like, oh, cheers, yeah. I watched it on telly, but no one could go. It's like, I've been 5 times and I've lost every time, Matt. And I'm thinking, do I go? Do I stay? Do I watch it on telly? I'm thinking it's got to change some stage. I mean, I don't know who you guys think is going to win. You might have seen both teams more than I have, because obviously I've been out scouting, so I haven't seen Sunderland as much as I wanted to see Sunderland, and I haven't seen Wickham. So
I think having watched Wickham a couple of times this season, unfortunately, having had the misfortune to watch Wickham against us a couple of times this season, I didn't recognise the team that played MK Dons at Wickham. I did not recognise them as Wickham Wanderers. Right. I personally, Neil, I backed Wickham to go up as soon as on the final day, because I just feel that we put. Say again.
I'm going to finish this podcast now. I'm not going to talk.
I'm not saying I want them to, because if they go up, that means we're going to have to play them again for 2. We're going to have about 10 minutes worth of football over 2 games with them.
I'll be honest, mate. I think both teams have changed in the last. You're saying that about Wickham. I think Sunderland's changed since the change of manager.
Yeah, definitely.
I watched them in both games against Wednesday, and before Alex Neil took over, Sunderland's problem was they had a soft centre. They got dig 5 at Rotherham, they got dig 3 at Wednesday, they got dig 6 at Bolton, they got dig 4 at Portsmouth.
Yeah,
and now turn it when the game turned, they couldn't turn it back, could they?
No. I mean, they had a horrendous week in South Yorkshire when they got beat. They got beat Wednesday first, then they went to New York on the Saturday and got digged again. And you always had that in your mind as a Sunderland fan. This could happen at any time, and sure enough, it happened to Bolton, and again it happened to Portsmouth. You know what I mean? But it doesn't seem to happen now.
No.
Touch wood. I'm not tempted to hate here, but they've also changed going forward as well. I think they've got a good. I just think this now is right for them now. I really do.
The key to it will be if they don't make it through, whether they stick with Alex Neil, and I think if they do, I think if they don't go up, I think they'll walk League One next season, because they've finally got the man in charge.
Yeah. The simple fact is they've got to stick with Alex Neil. I mean, when Lee Johnson went, there was a big and ahh about Roy Keane going back and all that. It never happened for some reason. I don't know why. Alex Neil went in and people were going, oh no, you know what I mean? What's happening? But to be fair to the guy, he's done absolutely brilliant, and he has been perfect for what they needed. And he is similar to Warney. If you listen to his after-match talks, he don't pull any punches. He says it how it is, and he says it right. And you listen to him and you go, yeah, do you know what? That was right. I mean, to be fair, after the Rotherham game, when we sneaked a late equaliser, he said we didn't deserve anything more than that, but I'll take the point.
Yeah.
I think I like Alex Neil a lot. I think on the face of it can look like the boring choice when he first came in. But I think boring often works in football. He's got the pedigree. He's done it. He's been there, done it before. He'll have that respect from players because he's done it. I like Alex Neil quite a lot. I think it was a great appointment.
I mean, we've had, as a Sunderland fan, we've had problems in the past. We've had the glamorous ones. We've had David Moyes. We've had Simon Grayson. We've had Chris Coleman. Now, I'm not saying I kind of feel a bit sorry for them guys, because I think that they could have been the right people at the wrong time. I think if you watch the documentary about the club, I can't watch that. I find people watch it and go, oh, you've got to watch it. It's brilliant. I find it embarrassing because I know what was happening at the club. The club was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And they I mean, David Moyes now, you look at him now, what a job he's done at West Ham.
Yeah.
He's not a bad manager all of a sudden.
No.
Chris Coleman's not a bad manager. Simon Grayson's not really a bad manager. They've had proven success. So you can see why the club got them, but there was something so much wrong in the background. And now I think it seems to have stabilised a lot better. And as you say, I think Alex Neil's the right man for the job. Definitely.
It was definitely a poison chalice, weren't it? At one point, that job.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. It's a hard job, and the lower down the divisions they go, the harder it is, I think.
Yeah. Well, the expectation gets bigger, doesn't it? The lower down the divisions you go for a club of that's supported the way Sunderland is, and with the history that Sunderland's got, the higher the expectation.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think from what I can gather, and I'm not. I think there's 47,000 Sunderland fans going at the weekend.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And a lot of people might listen to this and he's going on about the crowd. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. It's that just because at the end of the day, if it's not right on the pitch, it doesn't matter how many's on the stand, does it?
No.
And that's where Rotherham and Wigan to a certain degree, not as much Wigan, because I think what people don't realise is Wigan's budget is a lot bigger than Wigan's crowd and stuff. Because don't forget they took Sunderland's leading goal scorer last year in Charlie White.
Yeah.
So they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay less for him than what Sunderland were going to pay for him. You know what I mean? So because they don't get the crowd. Don't get me wrong; they've done great to do what they've done, as good as Rotherham has done. You know what I mean? So the expectation comes from the supporters, and it's very, very. And early on, I don't think that the players were good enough to deal with the expectation of the supporters.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a shock to the system coming down to this league, because people think, oh, it's all right. Wednesday fans think it, Ipswich fans think it. Oh, it's all right. It's League One. We'll go to some new grounds. We'll have a jolly. Back in Championship in a year's time, and it's a tough, hard slog, League One.
It's very,
this has been
it's not
best
going to be
years.
pretty,
This one.
it's not going to be pretty every week, Matt. Is it? You know what I mean? You're
Exactly.
not going to be allowed to play the pretty football every week, and teams are going to want someone to stay in League One because they get a big revenue from the away fans that go every week. I made a point the other week. I went up to Rotherham and I said. Sunderland fans don't deserve the stick they get sometimes because their nearest game was Doncaster, which is 120 mile away.
Yeah,
that's their nearest game, and they fill out everywhere they go. But their nearest game was 120 mile away. There's no one else closer.
Yeah,
they filled out at Plymouth, which is like an 8-hour trek or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Everywhere you go from Sunderland is a bit of a trek from the teams in this league, and it's quite a weird thing. And people go, oh, because they're a big. They'll go no matter where they are. If they're playing the Dog and Duck at Swansea, they'll go and watch them.
Yeah,
and the fans don't deserve that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the fans deserve and what they've got is totally different. But having said that, Rotherham fans are not as big, but just they deserve just as much, and they've got it. I mean, you know, and I know that we all know we've been to games. I mean, I remember going to Wrexham in '92, the last away game of '92, and we filled the away end at Wrexham.
I was there that day. I remember that. Yeah,
we filled the away end at Wrexham. I mean, I think there must have been 10 people in the rest of the other 3 stands, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, go to just come back from Bermuda. He'd been playing for Bermuda in the international, so he just come back. So he was jet lagged, and they threw him back in at Wrexham. So he come from Bermuda back to Wrexham. It's a bit of a culture shock, that, right? But the following at Wrexham for Miller's fans was absolutely unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
It is.
And some teams it'll kill you, but other teams. It'll make you go. You know what I mean? And that's how it happens.
When Miller's getting a roll with the fans, we have a very hardcore support of, I don't know what the number is, but a very hardcore support. And then when things start getting on a roll, it starts rocking. It starts properly rocking. And like so, you mentioned that game. Then Neil, obviously we've experienced at Gillingham end of this season.
Yeah.
When the fans just come and turn up, and it's a party, and the atmosphere is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the Gillingham game. Obviously I didn't see it. Like I seen the highlights of it, but to get so many people in that stand on that ramshackle stand, I think you've done well there. By the way,
No.
that doesn't look safe, and for so many people to go there, it's like. They've done. I'm not being funny. Gillingham's not a short trek, is it?
Like early kickoff and all.
Oh, it's 12:30. What football are you putting there? 12:30. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's the Football League.
It is. But you're dead right, Matt. Rotherham fans will travel, and there's loads of times we've been places, and you think, where have they all come from? There's too many of them. There's too many of them. I mean, it's like the Wembley scenario the first time, innit? Wembley was unbelievable.
Yeah,
20-odd thousand. I mean, a couple of years before, we could have been getting gates of 2,500, 3,000.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden we go to Wembley and there's 20-odd thousand there. You think the town must be empty.
Yeah.
Nobody left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone's got stickers on the window saying "back later, gone to Wembley."
I mean, you guys now. Wembley's your second bloody home, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got his own seats.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you have your names on the backs of seats, don't you?
Yeah.
Is it right? Apart from the Dagenham games, the only game you've lost, isn't it?
Yeah. We're one loss out of what's that? 5 now, I think.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll turn around. Because I've been 5 times and I've lost 5 times, so I might get my one win this weekend.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Matt loves a bit of football symmetry, so
I'm going to be a right miserable get.
You mentioned football symmetry. I've got one for you, right? Every time Sunderland's been to Wembley, apart from I think it was 1979, they've always been in the East Stand, but now they're back in the West Stand. And the last time they were in the West Stand, they won at Wembley.
Oh, you're an absolute star, Danny. Well done, mate. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that, mate.
Everybody lump on Sunderland to win now.
Oh, mate, I'm so happy with that. Yeah, it's like we played at Wembley. We've been to Wembley, and it's only good if you win. The difference in it is phenomenal between winning and losing. And
did you ever play other than '96? Did you ever play at Wembley for any other game?
No, that was the one and only. I mean, that in itself, it was an unbelievable 3 or 4 days for me as a player and for the club. I think under Archie and John, and they again now were another totally different management duo. They were counted as joint managers, but Archie was in charge type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone who knew the club knew Archie was in charge. There was no, and John McGovern was quite happy with that, and he understood that. He was the Phil Ensign type, where Archie was more the Billy McKeown type. It might be a coincidence that they're both Scottish and all that, but that's the way they were. You know what I mean? But Archie was different. But he was brilliant in what he did. It was all about getting a reaction out of players, and he knew how to do it. He wasn't frightened to tell you, by the way. I've had a few rollickings off him where you think, you know what, and he just wanted to see how you reacted to it.
Yeah.
And the team that got to Wembley was reacted the right way. It was good. It was brilliant.
It's the only team he managed. Archie Gilmore. Are you surprised that he didn't manage elsewhere?
Yeah, I really am, because, I mean, for a start, a lot of managers get jobs on their reputation as footballers. Now, Archie's reputation as a footballer is one of the best in Scotland ever. Yeah. In an era where Scotland produced fantastic footballers of the Dalglishers and the Souness's and people like that. So he wasn't just a one-off. So yeah, I am quite surprised. I mean, John went to Bolton. Did John go to Bolton as well? Didn't he? John McGovern did.
Well, he stayed in football, John, didn't he? But
yeah,
Archie didn't.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, for me again, Archie was fantastic. He knew how to push the right buttons. He as I said before, he gave you a few rollickings. I mean, the first day he got the job, he was given. They were given the job, and we played Birmingham on the Tuesday night, and he didn't actually take the game, but he watched the game from the stand, and we drew 1-1 with Birmingham, like on the night, and we thought we'd done well, like which we had, because Birmingham were one of the top teams in the division at the time. And anyway, so we come in the following day, and if you can remember, the training setup at Hooton Lodge, there was 2 pitches together, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. The old training pitch at the Hooton Lodge. Well, he set up like a 12-minute run the day after a game, and we're thinking, is this right? Like, we just had a game. We just had a hard game on the night before. Like, and am I allowed to swear on this? By the way,
go for it. We'll put an explicit on. It's fine.
All right, good. It's just in context of actually what happened, and it's like we played the night before, and he set up the 12 minutes. Now I was one of them. I hated the running side of it, and I'm thinking, I'm tired from the night before. And he said, and anyway, I'm near the back of this run, and Archie and John and John Breckin and a few others had set up just in the middle of the two pitches. So I'm at the back. I think there's only the goalkeepers behind me. So, you know what I mean? It's just one of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming up to the corner where Archie's at, and he starts walking forward. I'm thinking, oh, what's he going to say? He's going to say something here. He come right up to me, and he went, "Are you fucking injured?" I went, "No, girlfriend, all right." He went, "Well, fucking run then." I just went off, you know, and that's what I'm saying. He wanted a reaction, and he said to me afterwards, "I got a reaction out of you."
Yeah,
he says, he'd done his own work. He knew I wasn't going to win the race. He just wanted a reaction, and that's exactly what he wanted in games as well. And
sort of working out who we can work with into who we want to keep.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did it in games where you go into a game and you think, oh, we've done quite well here, and you come in at half time and he'd have a right go at you. You're thinking, well, I thought I'd done all right here. You know what I mean? It's a bit harsh, this, but he wanted to make sure you didn't go slack in the second half or something like that, and not do yourself justice. He wanted to get the maximum out of you, and it was brilliant for that.
Yeah. Let's talk about Wembley, because I imagine you never get tired of talking about that day in '96, do you?
I mean, we went down about 2 or 3 days before, didn't we? We went down. The game was on the Sunday. We went down on the Friday. I think we went down. We trained on Friday night. We stopped at Burnham Beaches on the Friday night, and the Saturday, which was like where England stayed for their games at the time. And we had a really, really light training session. There wasn't a lot to it. We woke up Saturday. We had breakfast. We thought we might do a little bit more training. We just didn't do any training after that. We went on the Saturday afternoon. We went to watch Chelsea Leeds at Stamford Bridge. The club paid for tickets to go and watch Chelsea Leeds, and I'll never forget the game because Chelsea beat Leeds 4-1, and Ruud Gullit played for Chelsea at the time. And Ruud Gullit played against Carlton Palmer, and that was a bit of a culture shock, I think. You know what I mean, for Ruud Gullit. But Ruud was just too clever, and he absolutely took the mickey out of him. And it was watching a top range international player against a probably solid international player, and the difference was phenomenal. I mean, it was good and Chelsea had all the stars and the Vialis and people like that, Zolas, and Chelsea won 4-1. But they took us to watch it, and we're there in Chelsea's ground with all our tracksuits on. So everyone looking at us thinking that's a bit strange. What are they doing? Why are they here? But we left Chelsea. We didn't go on the bus. We walked down the road and went to the pitches. He took us to the pitches straight after.
Brilliant.
So I'm thinking, what are we doing here? And all it was so relaxed.
Yeah.
It was just about keeping us relaxed. And we went to the pitches and watched Train Spotting.
I bet that relaxed you.
What was the filming time? And so we're all sat there again in our tracksuits watching Train Spotting. And Archie says to the day he didn't know the scene was in it where his name got mentioned. If you watch the film, his name got mentioned in the film. And when it come up, you're supposed to be quiet in the pictures. All the lads went, yes, like that, you know what I mean? Mentioned, and he went lower down in his chair. It's like it was just so relaxed, and so we went into the game relaxed, and I just don't think we were ever going to lose it.
I suppose the benefits having people like Archie Gilman and John McGovern that they know football. They've been there. They've done it. They've won whatever needed to win. So they know what is best for their players, because they've probably lost cup finals. They've won loads of cup finals. They know. So they've obviously been able to channel what they've done with under Cloughie and whoever else, and it's worked a treat, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot I can basically remember about the game because the game goes as a blur. The biggest memory of the day is being on the coach going up to Wembley. Because it's like going up, leaving the hotel there was no one there, so it was quite like going to an ordinary away game. And all of a sudden, you get close to Wembley and you start seeing red and white. You see more red and white, and you get outside Wembley, and all you see is red and white. You literally don't see any blue, yellow. And I remember a lot of the players they were kind of relaxed in their seats, and we kind of sat up and thought, do you know what? We've got to win this for these guys. You had to, and you saw so many players, you saw so many fans, sorry, and it was like, we've got to win them for these. And we went into the changing rooms, and no one knew who was playing. We didn't even know there was no who was playing. We didn't know who the side was. He hadn't told us anything about this. So it was a case of, I hope I'm playing this way. No one knew. And before then, I had a bad knee injury, and I'd picked and choose. And Archie had left me out of different games to rest me for Wembley. And I didn't know it at the time, because he told me afterwards. He said to me, you were always going to play at Wembley. He says, but you couldn't play every game because your knee was knackered, basically. And so, we played Shrewsbury the week before, and I didn't play that game. But we played them I played in the actual cup game, you know what I mean? So it was like quite nervous as to say, am I playing or what? Like, you know what I mean? But until he actually read the seam out, I'm thinking, oh, thank God I'm playing. And then obviously you go out from the tunnel, and you go up the tunnel, and our fans were at that end, so they're the first things you see, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, there's thousands of you. Where they come from? It's just red and white, and it was unbelievable to see that. Like,
you say you don't remember much of the game. Is that normal? Do you know if most games you're good? Do most games just fly by, or was that just one of those games where it just sort of happened?
I think. You obviously remember the goals. You obviously remember the goals because they stand out. And yes, it was a great through ball for Gemmo's second goal, by the way. It was went past the defenders and all that. Made the goalkeeper miss it as well. Like, so Gemmo can thank me later on. I think it's called Route 1 nowadays, isn't it? And I remember near the end, because they scored quite late, didn't they? So it was a bit of a nervous last 5 minutes, but I don't think we ever felt in danger, to be fair, within that game. I don't know what you were like, Mick, as a fan there, or whether you were as comfortable.
2-0, yeah. 2-1, no, not so much. You never do you? You know, Matt and I talk about this virtually every time we go 2-0 up. It's a dangerous score, and it really is.
Yeah.
Because if the opposition do get one back, you really start to. Certainly, as a supporter, I don't know whether it's the same as a player, but as a supporter, you start to think, "Hang on a minute, they're back in this. One mistake, and we're in trouble."
Yeah, 2-0 is a really. It sounds as if it should be like a comfortable lead. It's not, because, as you say, if you go to 2-1, it's all of a sudden it's Tin Elmer's job, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's one of them.
Yeah. And by definition, the momentum shifted, hasn't it?
Yeah,
the momentum of the game shifted. So
absolutely.
I remember
playing against Hull when we were 5-1 up and still panicking. You know what I mean? We beat Hull 5-4, and in the end we're hanging on. But for 60 minutes in that game, we're absolutely flying.
Was that away? Was that at Boothby Park?
No, it was at Millmore.
Was it?
It was at Millmore, and I tell you, Lee Glover scored 4.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Glover's got 4, and like we're 5-1 up, and we're absolutely cruising. And all of a sudden, Glyn Hodges curls a beauty, bottom corner, bottom end in the top corner, and and the Hull again were one of them teams who brought decent following. There was quite a few people behind the goal. So they start singing, "Oh, we're going to win 6-5," and we're thinking, "Yeah, of course you are." Next thing you know, it's 5-3.
Yeah,
and it's 5-4. All of a sudden, you see Gloves coming down towards the defenders, and Gloves is shouting, "I've done my bit, you do your bit." I'm like, "Oh, cheers, Gloves." It's like, as you say, it's momentum's massive near the end of a game.
Yeah.
No, it's huge. In terms of the celebrations afterwards, we sort of experienced it on the Gillingham game, where all the players came back and had a good party at a pub with loads of fans. Was that same sort of thing on that for you guys in '96?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we all went back to the Millmore, the pub beside the ground. It wasn't the biggest, but there was so many people. It seemed as if there was like so many people there. It was huge, and if I remember rightly, it was we never bought a drink that night,
And rightly so.
We parked the cars up, and the cars were parked there overnight. I think a lot of the lads, wherever they could in Rotherham, not many of them went home, I don't think. And it was fantastic. I just remember going back, and you walk in the pub, and people were just going balmy because of what. I don't think they could believe what had happened. Because obviously it's the first time, and it was just an unbelievable experience. Unbelievable. I mean, the coach journey on the way back was just as good. You've got 3.5 hours coming back from London. You just got a trophy for the first time ever. So it wasn't orange juice or tea you were drinking, was it?
No.
By the time you were back at Millmore, you were already tanked up. you were already 3 sheets gone to the wind. So you were just, but because you were so high, I don't think it's the beer didn't sink in.
Yeah,
you just couldn't take it away, and it was brilliant.
And I imagine it bonds you. Obviously, last year we spoke to you, Trevor Berry, and Roscoe together, and you could tell that it just sort of you three talking about the day. It's just you guys that were playing, the management staff, and everything else. It just bonds you together because you've got that joint memory together. Yeah,
well, myself, Trevor, Andy, and Darren Garner as well became quite close at the time, and we used to go everywhere together. That does include pubs. I'll hold my hand up and say that. Yeah, it does include pubs and things like that. But we played golf together. We played a four balls in golf, and we did a lot of things together. You know what I mean? And we became very, very close friends in that time. And it was, and that's what it does. Winning does that. Winning does that. You'll always get close when you. It's very rare you're gonna win things if your team's disjointed. You've got to have absolutely outstanding individuals, but even then you're not guaranteed to win it. Even with outstanding individuals, if your team's not bonded, because you've got to have that glue.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the following season, which was a disaster. We talked to Trevor Berry on our live show, and he talked to us about Danny Begara and the issues that he had, some brief issues he had with him. What was he like to manage? Because he's clearly a successful manager. He went to Stockport and did extremely well. He's still a legend nowadays there, but it clearly didn't click with Rotherham United, did he? And it just that's where it finished second bottom on no points almost. Yeah. How was that season?
Yeah, I mean, I got sent to Exeter. It was that bad.
Oh, okay.
I went on loan to Exeter for most of it. But when Danny first came, he obviously came, as you say, we came with a reputation at Stockport, where he'd done ever so well. And I remember the first day he took charge. He sat us in one of the rooms at Millmore. And he talked for 15 minutes in Spanish. He talked to the players for 15 minutes in Spanish, and we were all looking at each other saying, "What the hell's going on here?" We just kept going and going and going. Now, Danny was a lovely, lovely man, a really, really nice man. But when the first time you meet a player or a group of players, you've got to make an impression. And he spoke to us. None of us spoke any other language apart from English. So to speak 15 minutes, and he just never stopped in Spanish. That was it. And we're thinking, what the hell? You know what I mean? And it seemed to be confusion all the way through from there on in.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously didn't like me, which was his choice, and that's the manager's prerogative. It's got to be, because at the end of the day, he lives and dies by his results and who he chooses. But it's I went out on loan to Exeter. And I again, my geography wasn't very good. I didn't think Exeter was very far. It was miles away.
Couldn't send you much further away.
I'm thinking, does he hate me that much? He sent me all that way. My first two away games were Hartlepool and Darlington as well, so I had to go back.
Oh wow!
It's like, wow, this is great. But I really enjoyed Exeter, and they were fantastic with me. Peter Fox was a great bloke as a manager, and Noel Blake, fantastic. But I just thought there was too much confusion with Danny. There was too much confusion, and the players, and it drilled back into the players, and there was a lot of chopping and changing, and it just didn't work. But you could see it was going to happen before then, because at the start of the season, as you say, we just won the trophy. Everything was on a high. Archie and John gone to the owners and said, "I want this and want that. And we want a bit." And I remember John McGovern told me we were in the gym one day, and John's telling me, he went, "We won't be here long because we've asked for so many different players and we just get told no." It did come down to budget. The budget's this, but we've got. I mean, we want this. If we want to make the club, I mean, don't forget, the club had just been made so many hundreds of thousands of pounds
exactly.
from the FA. From the Auto Windscreen Trophy, and I just felt Archie and John got a really, really raw deal from that, because they weren't allowed. They were successful, but they weren't allowed to get what they wanted. And I think it was only 6 games in. At Luton was their last game, so 6 games into a new season, you're already out of the door. Is that fair? I don't think it is.
No.
I don't think it is. But that's the way it happened. And Danny come in.
Mick, you remember that season? That's the first thing I start remembering. I remember the main thing I remember from that season is the league table. I remember looking at the league table in programs and it being just looking terrible. But Mick, you remember the season. You were a fan. Tell people that weren't there from the outside how bad that season was.
Horrible. It was horrible, but it was a start. I suppose it was really the catalyst for the club really starting to go downhill, both on and off the pitch. And you know, there's enough been said over the years about the regime at the club, but that regime, whatever the politics were behind it, whether whether it was family politics, whether it was just boardroom politics or a combination of both, it virtually almost came very, very close to destroying the club. I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it, that, you know, if it had been allowed to continue and the club had survived, we'd still probably languishing somewhere halfway up League Two. So I guess going through all that pain and suffering, of which that was a start, has led us to where we are now. True. Which makes days out of Gillingham, days out of Wembley so much more enjoyable and meaningful. But like Neil said there, that was really that season. You could see the confusion and things just clearly weren't working. And I suspect behind the scenes at board level, there was a similar sort of confused picture. I'm not saying the people were confused. I'm just saying probably the picture and the ambitions, if that's the right word, which it clearly isn't, ambitions for the club. You know,
I think from a spectator's point of view, Mick, you look at it and you say the club's just won the Auto Windscreen Shield. They just made X amount of money. Where's it been invested? From a spectator's point of view, they would have looked at that and gone, well, where have we got better since we've done this, and we haven't.
And I think that was the issue, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it wasn't invested in the club. It was probably went to pay off or taken back as some of the money that had been shelled out by the chairman and his family. You know, recouping their debts or what they saw were debts that the club owed them.
Yeah.
And
I think Archie and John fell by that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it was fair on them. I really don't.
You know, if Tony Stewart had been chairman at that point, Archie and John Gemmell would have stayed for however long they wanted. I would argue, because they would have got the backing. Maybe not the financial backing, because it's not always about the money. It's obviously it's a big part of it. But you've got to have that. You've got to have the backing, the moral support, and of a chairman and board. And I don't think the board were even supportive of each other, let alone the manager or the club.
Well, so, I think one of the big things when you finish a season, no matter where you finish, you've got to look to the start of next season. You've got to see new signings. You've got to see as if the club's progressing in some way. And you guys as fans must have looked at that and gone, Jesus, what's happened here?
Yeah,
this is not right.
Yeah,
This
it was
is not
perfect.
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Gemma went to Shrewsbury. Now I'm not being fun. I'm not being please don't think I'm being disrespectful to Shrewsbury, but we should have been able to match what they could have offered him.
Yeah. We
should have been able to match that.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a club's point of view, from a financial point of view, we should have been able to match whatever they offered him. And so then you're talking about the not just the 2 goals at Wembley. Gemmo scored quite a few goals, and he was a proven goal scorer, no matter where he was. Great experience from a higher level, and we just let him go.
Bizarre.
The club just let him go. They didn't let him go to a so-called big club in that division. They let him go to a club who's going to be round about the bottom areas of it.
And I think that's absolutely the point, Neil. You're absolutely right, and again, absolutely no disrespect whatsoever to Shrewsbury.
No,
however, the fact that he was allowed to go there, and they'd not allowed to go there, but we'd been sort of financially usurped by Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
It's just like it was like, well, there's only one way. There's only one way from here, really.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes it does happen. It will happen because the player might be located from that region or something like that, so he might want to go to that region. So if that's the case, if it does happen, you as a board or as a club, you've got to say, right, we've got to get better in now. Then, and we just didn't do it. We didn't do it.
No.
And the players at the time suffered. The fans suffered, and after going from the high of Wembley. As you say, the club looked absolutely lost.
It was, wasn't it? There was nobody steering at all.
Yeah, and it was. And as a player, it kind of becomes hard to play because you're thinking, and it sounds really horrible. Do I really want to turn up on a Saturday and play? Yes, I do because that's just the way I am. But it was hard. Because you knew you were up against it straight away.
Yeah.
And the club just
can only imagine.
John.
Yeah. I can only imagine. To be honest, I remember bits of it, but I remember it being unpleasant that season. The few bits.
Don't get me wrong. I went to Exeter, and I didn't take any pleasure in Rotherham struggling that year. I wanted them to do well. I was going to go. I was going there hoping they would do really, really well, but it wasn't. I came back for the last 2 games. I played the last 2 games after Danny got sacked, and Mick Hennigan took over, and Mick straight away put me back in, and he went, "This shouldn't have happened." That was his words to me. He said, "This shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't have left this football club." Now Mick Hennigan was again a massive football person, and a great experience working with Howard Wilkinson as his number 2 for a lot of years at Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday, and. If you didn't know Mick, you'd think he was mad as a box of frogs. But his appetite was unbelievable. And again, his training was brilliant. His training was as enthusiastic. His training was as enthusiastic as what he was, and it looked up on the players. And the last 2 games, I mean, we got beat at home off York, but we beat Bristol Rovers in the last game. But you could kind of sense that we hit the lowest we possibly could. And I think things had to go up from there.
And they did. The man in Rotherham's man in shining armour, the man who became king, Ronnie Moore came back to Rotherham United in '97. The build up to Ronnie Moore coming back, Neil. Now again, I remember I had literally a poster on my wall that said Ronnie's coming home, and it was a huge thing for the club for Ronnie Moore. I didn't remember from '80s, but I remember it was a big thing for the football club. What was it like as a player, seeing the buzz of the fans that this man was coming back to the football club?
Well, the fans made it special for what it was, because I'd be honest. I thought Rodney Fern was, from what I was told, I thought Rod Fern was the main striker in them days. And Tiger, they were the ones. I knew Ronnie had scored the goals. Don't get me wrong. I knew Ronnie had scored the goals and what he did. And I didn't realise how revered he was. I didn't realise that, and it was all of a sudden it was as if the fans are back on your side, the manager's back on your side, and it was it's only going to go one way now. And it was just it was like a relief, like the weight had come off your shoulders, and everything was like, oh, we're gonna start playing entertaining football again. We're gonna have a go. You know what I mean, we might lose games 5-3, we might win games 7-4 or whatever.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a go. And that was great. And I think that year, I the first year Ronnie was back, I played the most games ever. I played 46 games that year, and it was like it was just good to. I mean, we only just missed the playoffs from the last game of the season, didn't we? By we got beaten Notts County.
They won league, didn't they?
Yeah. They'd already won the league. I mean, Gary Jones had scored for fun that year, hadn't he, at Notts County? We played them last game of the season. I remember we pulled it back to 2-2 in the game, and we had to beat Barnett's result, if I remember rightly.
Yeah,
and we would have been in the playoffs. But then we kind of went really gung ho, and we just went man at the back, and we got beat 5-2 in the end. But in future years, it proved successful for him because he was prepared to gamble, and as a manager. He'll tell you better than me. You've sometimes got to gamble in it, and it's also when you gamble in it. You've got to gamble to win a game, and whether it's luck or whether it's good management, it's got to be good management because he did it so often. It's got to be good. It's got to be good management. They did it. They did it.
Yeah, they did that. Danny, do you want to ask Neil if that shirt behind you? Danny's got a match-worn shirt behind him, isn't it? He wants to know if you can verify it.
There we go. I've got it right side. There you go. I think it's 96-97 away, I think. And I think it's a toss-up between yourself and Ian Breckin as to whose shirt it is.
Right.
It's got the Nationwide Football League patches and everything on it. And of course, it's from the time it was position numbers onto squad numbers. I was going to say there
wasn't names on the back by then, so it was varied, wasn't it? So, I mean, we used to change our away kit every year, didn't we? Virtually, it was crazy.
Some funny ones.
I used to like the yellow one. To be fair, if I had a preference, was the yellow and sky blue one. I used to love that.
Yeah,
it was a great one.
It was.
And the one behind, I remember it was one of them. I mean, they say stripes make you look fatter, don't they? Is that right?
I can confirm that. Yes, I can confirm that. I wore it for a watch along we did, and I put it on, and it's like, oh no, lockdown's not been kind to me at all.
I think we had some great shirts. But we also had some horrendous ones as well. I remember the one the home one we used to have, which was like flock wallpaper, wasn't it? It was like. Wallpaper, it was shocking. And sometimes we used to get Dave Nichols, bless him, he used to do a thing at the start of every year. He used to get like a list of 5 or 6 strips. Which one do the fans want? This one got picked once, and I'm like, it's horrendous. We've got to wear it. Let's all look happy that we're wearing this flock wallpaper, but it was horrible. It was horrible. It wasn't very good when you were sweating either, because you used to stick to you and things like that, you know.
Oh, lovely.
Typical 90s football kits. Just no thought going into them, really. Just they look all right. Yeah, fans like them.
I could ask you guys, which was your favourite kit from them eras or whatever? You know what I mean?
Mick's not a kit fan. You have to make Mick will be like, whoa.
The yellow and sky blue one that you're talking about there, Neil, is probably one of my favourites. I'm more of an away kit fan if I'm a kit fan.
You don't like this Wembley one, do you, Mick?
No, I'm not a fan of that.
I'll be honest, Matt, I don't like that. I don't like that one. I think we've had much better ones than that.
Yeah.
It's the white lines across it. What is it?
What you mean?
Is it a game of noughts and crosses or what?
Yeah.
But,
I like this one.
The
98 one. But maybe that's because it was my first proper shirt, remembering that. Maybe that's why I liked it so much. I don't know.
There was, don't get me wrong, mate, there was some good ones, but there was some horrendous ones. And you think, I've got to wear this every week. But I mean, the first year I joined the yellow and blue away kit, I thought was really, really smart. That was probably my favourite away kit.
Yeah, definitely.
Danny, you're a kit aficionado. What are your thoughts?
I won't go that far. I'd say because these kits were all a little bit before my time, because I'm a 1999 baby. So I just like classic kits as a whole, but I have to admit, my personal favourite is the one I've got on at the minute because it reminds me of the Liverpool away kit from around that era. The great Liverpool teams with the red candy and everything. It might be inspired, I'm not sure, but whenever I'm out and about in this shirt, whether it's at Watford Gap or whatever away day we're on, someone will always say to me, "Oh, why are you wearing a Liverpool shirt if you're a Rotherham fan?" It's like, come closer and have a look at the badge, because that doesn't say Liverpool.
To be fair, Danny, I like that one. I thought that was, as you say, and I think we did think we get it because we were going to play like Liverpool. It didn't happen, but we got it because of that. But it was a decent kit.
Back on Ronnie a bit more because it's Ronnie Moore. We've got to talk about him because we love him. How was he like playing? You say the style of play was fun. Was he? He came across as a very, very good man manager. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's good. It was all everything was positive. It had to be positive. We were going to attack no matter what. I mean, a lot of the time. I remember a lot of the time I played in the middle of a back three at the time with Nilly and I think with Vance Warner on the other side, and or Clarkey, I can't remember which. But if we went down, I got brought off, which because I was actually the middle man of the three, the so-called sweeper. He wanted to go positive, and that was his way. And although I didn't like it, I got it. You know what I mean? I was comfortable with it because I knew what he was trying to do. And as a supporter, if you're taking one of your defenders off and you're putting a striker on, it's a positive reaction. But he'd only do it if we were going down and it was late in the game. You know what I mean? So I can kind of see why he did it. And everything was positive. I mean, he was great for team bonding. I mean, one of the first trips we went overnight to Orient, and he took us to a pub. He took us to a pub on the Friday night, and he said, and like we're thinking, oh, what do we drink? What do we drink here? Like, and like the first few lads went up and ordered a Coke, and to be fair, he says, look, if you want a beer, have a beer, but just don't be stupid. So he treat you as a grown up, not just as a grown up, as a professional footballer, and he did that all the way through, and that's why I think that's why the players responded to him. His aura of what happened before was always going to get the spectators, but the players around at the time didn't really know him. Other than Clarkey, we brought in from Southport, who we had with him from Southport. So, but he did that, and he got the players together, and we had nights out together, and we went to the Dogs, I think, a few times, and it was just togetherness, but it was always positivity, and that was Ronnie. That was Ronnie.
Yeah, I get that. It comes across, even if he still covers Rotherham games now, you still get a positivity from him.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
We were singing his name at Gillingham, weren't we?
We were. We still gets his name sung nowadays. It's brilliant. Brilliant. The next season was your 10th year and your testimonial year. I think I'm right in saying, Neil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I say I played 46 games the season before, so I started that year. Then I got injured against Rochdale. I got a chipped bone in the bottom of my leg, and I'll never forget it. It was a tackle by Paul Carden, and I come off in the game. I got stretched off in the game. I went to hospital, done X-rays and all that, and they said it wasn't broken at the time. So I thought, oh, great, fantastic. So I went back to the club. Obviously, I did light training, so I'm actually on this ankle now. And I remember I was in a training session, and when you know something's not right in your body, my foot was hurting, and there was a pain there which wasn't normally there. And I pulled up in training, and I said to the gaffer, I said, Ronnie, I'm not right. And he went, what do you mean? I said, there's something wrong with my leg. So he said, get yourself down to see the physio, Bales, and get it sorted out. And sure enough, there was a chip in the bone. There was a chip in the bone, which they hadn't picked up before.
Yeah.
So I was like 2 weeks down the line or whatever it was. I hadn't gone into pot. I'd done a little bit of training, so I might have made it worse.
Well, yeah.
I might have made it worse, and from then on in, I never got back in the team because the team had done so well. I mean, they got to the playoffs against Orient, but yes, it was my testimonial year, and the club done a lot of really good things for me. People like Jerry Summerton and people like that, Eric Twigg, God bless him, John Newey, who was on the committee and all that. All these people who were doing things behind the scenes for me, for the testimonial. But I obviously I wanted to get back in, but the lads were doing so well, so I didn't really have a grump. I couldn't have any grump about that. To be fair, I just had to accept it.
Mm.
I mean, it was something that happened because the players were doing so well.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's what I can imagine. It's one of those things that's frustrating but good at the same time. Your team's winning, but you're not playing, and you sort of it's just trying to be out there.
What Ronnie used to do as well, he used to. We used to, no matter who was playing, he used to take all the pros to all the away games. As long as it wasn't like an overnight trip, so like to Rochdale and places like that, we went there just to support the lads. And he was big on that. He wanted everyone to be in it together, and it was about team spirit and positivity. Really, to be fair with him.
Yeah. Your testimonial game, I seem to. Was it West Brom you played in the testimonial?
It was, yeah, it was.
Why?
It was. Oh mate, it turned into a bit of a farce because Bobby Williamson was manager at Kilmarnock at the time, and Bobby had agreed to bring his team down. Now, also playing for Kilmarnock was Ali McCoy at the time. So me putting two and two together, thinking Bobby will drag a few people in, but obviously because of Bobby's familiarity and Ali McCoy's. So I agreed to it. Then 2 weeks before it was due to happen, the Scottish FA said they can't play because they've got to play a Scottish game after the testimonial, and they didn't want them to get tired or injured or whatever. So it got cancelled in that respect. So, but the date remained. I couldn't change the date of the game.
Yeah.
So luckily, I mean, somebody within the club knew John Weil, who was at West Brom. Now, John Weil was I met him at the time. He was a lovely, lovely man, and him and Dennis Smith agreed to bring West Brom down, and West Brom were a good side.
Yeah,
they were a good side at the time, and Kevin Kilban and people like that. And it was the season Lee Hughes had scored all his goals. And I mean, don't get me wrong, what he did afterwards wasn't right, but at the time he was the top goal scorer in the country by a mile. So I just wanted it to happen. I wanted it to go ahead, just to say thank you to the supporters, obviously, and we played West Brom in the process.
Yeah, I do remember the game. It was enjoyable, good laugh. Those type of things. And then let's talk about the playoffs because I suppose you almost became a spectator for that period, and those playoff semi-finals, the games themselves, what I remember weren't very good. They were I assume they were cagey affairs. I think that's what came across. And then what was the atmosphere between the players like after we lost to Leyton Orient? Because as a fan, it was gutting.
We drew the first game at home, didn't we? 0-0. I think it's the only time ever both games have been 0-0, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know.
And we drew the first game 0-0, but it was a case of we can do better and we still win this. It was a case of we tried to push all the pressure onto Orient, and I think we did it. I think Ronnie did it quite well, to be fair. He wanted them to have all the pressure. They're the home team. They're the expectations all on them. And I actually went down there and I did the radio with Brian Chappell on the day. And I'll never forget it because on the day, Paul Dillon had an absolutely outstanding game. I thought he was superb. Paul Dillon was centre half in my position, so I was so pleased for him. But obviously, I wanted to play it. But he'd done ever so well. He'd done well all the way through. And to be fair, 2 0-0 games, your defence has done something right.
Yeah.
Then it goes to penalties, and as we know, with penalties, it goes to a lottery, doesn't it? And I mean, we thought because we'd had the Scunthorpe penalty shootout just before, first one ever in the FA Cup, we thought we might have a bit more experience, but it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing because it's different personnel and it's a totally different situation. And I can't remember the score in the penalties, it was a hard journey back for the boys. You know what I mean? It really was a hard journey back for them after they worked so hard.
Yeah. And that was it for your Rotherham career, wasn't it? When you're leaving the club, was it because you just didn't play the game, the injury came, and was it just that you just we can't give you no deal, or was there something else to the end?
I think it was a mixture. I think it was a mixture. Ronnie looked at it and thought, how many games am I going to get out of him? And he obviously had eyes on other people, which, to be fair, he's probably done that all the way through the season, knowing my injury wasn't great. You know what I mean? It had been a build-up from Wembley. So it had been a build-up for like 3 years worth of injury. And eventually they took the whole cartilage out. So I was running on no cartilage. So he had to do his job and find surplus requirements, to be fair. And I think it was a bit of a mixture. He might tell you something different. I don't know. But he had to do his job in terms of get somebody else in who could possibly guarantee him 30 to 40 games a year, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah. No, so you went to Mansfield. You saw another season after, didn't you? A season at Mansfield, am I right?
Yeah, I went to Mansfield, and to be fair, I did play 35 games that year. It was different, but and to be fair, I loved it at Mansfield as well. They were similar type of club in terms of not massive, but they had a big fan base, a good fan base, a loyal fan base, and the players were so close knit. It was another one of them when I was going into a dressing room where I felt really, really wanted, even though I was a bit of a stranger coming from a different club. And it was hard because at the start of the year they were on an embargo, so I didn't know whether I could sign at the start of the year. And the manager Billy Dearden, who I've got absolute massive respect for, he was brilliant. He said he told me the whole story, and he said, "Look, I want you to sign, but there is an embargo on at the moment. Please be patient. Hopefully, we'll get it done by next week and before the season." And sure enough, we got it sorted. And I played 35 games that year.
Brilliant. Danny, you were sending me some questions earlier. Do you want to finish over with those 3 or 4 questions? A sort of quick fire ending.
Certainly. So first one, I think, is probably the most standard question you can do on a podcast like this is, what is your best moment in a Rotherham shirt? If you had to pick one.
Well, the going in goal at Shrewsbury wasn't.
Yeah.
Was that where we went out to 9 men?
That wasn't one of the best ones. No, I think to be finished with 8, there was 3 of us went. I mean,
it occurred to me when you mentioned earlier on that I'd play anywhere. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm sure he went in goal. I'm sure he played in.
Do you know the reason why I went in goal? It was bizarre. At the time we had 2 subs, and there wasn't a goalkeeper, it was a sub. Yeah. Even though Paul Pettinger was at the game, he wasn't picked as one of the subs. So it was 2 outfield players, and Mimsy got smashed by Devon White within 2 minutes. So everyone's looking around thinking, what the hell do we do now? Like, and Breck come on the pitch and he threw me the gloves and he went, "You play cricket, you're better at catching. There you go, get yourself in goal." Like, that's you, son. You know what I mean? It was as stupid. And as soon as everyone else realised someone else was going goal, they're going, "Yeah, I'm happy with that," and they'll So it was funny. We did get beaten the game, but it was a funny game. But Wembley was best. Wembley was best, but also all promotions were good. All promotions. Wrexham away was great. Chesterfield at home was great. I mean, but the one standout moment is, I mean, Carlisle away in the Northern final, the second leg. It's the coldest I've ever been, but it was an absolutely unbelievable feeling. It was probably more of a high than Wembley because all of a sudden we know we're going there now.
Yeah.
And so it's between Carlisle away and Wembley. It's kind of hard, but obviously it's probably Wembley. Yeah.
Did you watch the EFL Trophy final this season?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So nice segue into the next question of We compare the two, the class of 2022 and the class of 1996 in the AFL Trophy. Which would you say that is the better? But also, which do you think is the more uplifting for the club itself, winning the different types of trophy, if you like?
It's different eras, and it's the fact that 96 was the first makes it extra special, I think. But if you're asking me, I mean, you go through the teams, and we didn't have a smudger. If we'd had a smudger, we'd have been a better side than we were. We didn't have a Dan Barlaser. We didn't have a Ben Wiles. I'm gonna say something which might sound a bit strange, but I thought we were better defensively. But we didn't have a smudger. Sean Goater was good. Nigel Jemson was good, but we didn't have a physical battering ram who could also play as well. Smudge is more than just a battering ram. He's a better player than that. He's an all-round footballer, and he's massive. And I think if we'd had him, and he'd have been the type of player we'd have needed the following year.
Yeah.
He'd have been absolutely brilliant if after Wembley we got someone like him, and we'd have been absolutely fine in that division. So it does come down to individual players, I think, for that question, and I think Smudge is massive, and I would say he's probably the biggest difference between the two sides.
Which trophy looks better, the Auto Windscreen Shields or the Papa John's Trophy? Which is the better looking thing to hold up at Wembley?
The Auto Windscreen Shield is an ugly shield. It's horrible. I think someone's made it in school in woodwork. I think it's bloody horrible. And it's the present one's so much better. It's so much better. But it's not about what it looks like. It's about winning it.
Yeah.
But the current one looks so much better. Yeah, absolutely. we actually got replicas of the one. That was our individual trophy.
Yeah,
right.
The one the big one we won.
Have you still got it?
It's somewhere in the loft there.
Is it? Pride of place at loft.
Yeah.
Every now and again, if we get a draft in the house and put it on the door as a doorstop, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for that.
And one of my questions has already been answered, but you mentioned about
what do you use as a doorstop?
Yeah, how did you know, mate? But you've already mentioned that you're scouting for Nottingham Forest now. But after you finished playing with Mansfield, what filled the time between scouting with Forest and ending your career with Mansfield?
I was quite lucky, to be fair, Danny. I was offered to go into coaching. Billy was a coaching place within the academy at Mansfield at the time, and Billy wanted me to stay with him. Billy did, and he offered me that, and I'd done my coaching badges, so it was a lucky step for me to go to be able to do it. I was fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, but it was a great step to be able to do it. And I had like 3 or 4 years at Mansfield as coaching, gradually building up to assistant manager.
Excellent.
Is that your question, Stanley?
That is. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Our final one is who was the best player you played with while at Rotherham United? Best teammate.
That's 3-1, or can I give you 2 or 3?
You can give us a couple. Why not?
Right. Raggy, Tony Grealish. I thought different players, so effective in what they did, but a perfect foil for each other. And I'd also go Clive Mendonca as well. Clive was still only a baby when he was playing at Rotherham. To be fair, he was younger than me. I think I'm from the same region as Clive, and he was 2 years younger than me at school. So he was like 2 years younger. I was 20 when I went to. So he was 18, 19. I think when he first started at Rotherham, he was quite young. But Clive was very, very, very good player. Bobby got all the headlines because Bobby scored all the goals. Bobby Williamson, but Clive was always going to be a special player. But then again, if you ask me who was the best technician, I'd say John Buckley.
Really? Yeah.
I'd say Bucky had so much skill it was untrue. He could nutmeg anybody even if the legs were closed. He was so good. Not the bravest, and he'll openly admit that. But a good footballer. Technically as good as anybody.
Mick, I'm going to make you pick one of those. I'll let Neil pick a few because he's our guest. Mick, pick me one of those. Who was, or tell people, explain, how good these players were from a fan point of view. I know we mentioned Sean Goodwin before, but
Raggy. Every day of the week, Raggy. John Goodwin was it was clearly a hell of a player, absolute fantastic footballer. And I know I suspect he probably got his head turned a little bit with a potential move, I think, to Everton was on the cards, and that didn't turn out for him. But yeah, what a player!
We were actually told it was Liverpool he was going to, Mick. And right. Liverpool had put the offer in, but I don't know whether it was the manager at the time, Billy Mckeown, or whether it was the chairman at the time, wanted an extra 50 grand, and that's the reason he didn't go. I think later on, Everton came, but we were always told it was Liverpool at the time.
Right. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I knew about Everton.
As you say, a fantastic player.
Yeah.
And the local boy as well, which makes it even more special.
Yeah. He used to live just right corner from me. And he's still following Rotherham now. I see him periodically at games. A lot of time for him.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah.
So I have to add as well. Obviously, Andy Roscoe were a great player. Clearly, we know Tony Towner, but he was a good player. And Trev Berry, he were excellent as well. I mean, once scored a goal against Burnley.
Trev's probably scored the best goal ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trev's
Burnley, I think, right?
Trev's goal at Burnley, the first time on Sky, is probably one of the best goals I've seen live as a Rotherham.
Yeah, it was amazing. He plays it down though. We've spoken a few times. They keep playing it down, but it was amazing. Watching Rotherham on Sky and then that happening was just amazing.
Well, actually, the guy that's trying to chase him is my boss now. It's Chris Brass, and I always remind him. That's Trevor Berry, mate, and it's like, I always remind him about but it's the fact that he shot was absolutely outrageous because the angle he was at was stupid.
Yeah.
And he's chipped it far and it's gone postage stamp, and it's like wow.
Yeah.
I mean that was.
I'm ashamed to admit I have to Google this goal because I've never seen it.
Never seen it. It is on YouTube.
Yeah, I have got it up now.
First time on Sky, and it was absolutely outrageous. Remember Andy Gray going mad about this goal?
Yeah,
he did that.
It was fantastic.
Well. So first of all, what I'll do before we finish is everybody who's listening, watching, subscribe. You know the drill. Subscribe YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. Freddie's on one-on-one. Freddie shoot container shot. Apologies to the neighbours.